All right, so music, gum, and cell phones. These things all improve the classroom. They improve your quality of learning, and they improve your grades. Today, I'm here to tell you how that's possible and why it matters. So, as Rob said, my name is Hemanth Soni, and I'm a Bayview student in grade 12 IB. Now, high school is quite difficult. And as IB students, it's even harder. You don't get to choose two, you only get one. And after all this hard work, at the end of the day, I can't talk about world issues. I can't talk about global economics, and I can't talk about world politics, because I don't know too much about any of these things. But after 12 years, I have learned a little bit about my school. Now, it's easy to see the classroom as a battleground between students who are just sleepy and don't want to learn, and teachers who just want control in their classroom. But after 12 years, I've learned that it's much, much more complex than that. In every school, there's a set standard of rules that have to be followed. And I realized that most of these rules, when they're broken, nothing bad comes from them, really. And many of the things that are banned in schools are actually advantageous. And that brings me to my topic. And, I did a little bit of research. And I found from my research that many of these things are easily implemented, and really they've started being used in other schools already. And what I realized is that there are many things we need in our schools. So I'll talk to you today about 3 advantageous things that are banned in schools. Now, I'll start the countdown with number 3, which is music. Now, teenagers, we like our music a lot. And with iPods and MP3 players, we can have our music anywhere we want. And what we've done is we've brought music into the classroom. Now, teachers don't like that, and that's for a good reason. How can you focus? How can you study while there's loud beats pounding in your head? Well, research shows that not only is it possible to concentrate despite the music, the music can actually help. Now, how is that possible? This is in a reference to the idea known as the Mozart effect, where listening to classical music improves your short-term memory. This applies to all kinds of music. And as research conducted at San Diego State University and the University of Wisconsin show, music can be used to improve your studying efficiency. But there are, however, some problems with this. And first thing first is you cannot listen to music with words in it. It has to be instrumental. And that's because it's hard to memorize physics formulas, and in the end, all you memorize are the lyrics to your favorite song. And the problem with that is that that's not what you're trying to do. Music should be used to help you learn. And you can do this by just listening to slightly quiet, moderately paced music, which will help you relax and decrease your muscle tension so you can sit still instead of fidgeting and moving around and needing to move. It'll help you concentrate, relax, and it gives you an isolated environment to study in. And second, there is gum. Now, chewing gum, well, first you're all probably thinking, wait a minute, we can't allow gum in the classroom. All that gum is going to end up under a desk. Well, the truth is it only ends up under a desk because there's nowhere else for us to put it. Whoops. It's not allowed in schools, and you need to get rid of it from lunch period before the teacher sees. And that's why it ends up under desks. Several schools already have pro-gum policies, and they have no complaints. And in fact, the janitors actually state that there is less gum under desks, which can only be a good thing. Now, studies from several other universities, the University of Northumbria and the Cognitive Research Unit in England, show that that gum can help you focus, relieve boredom, and stress. And that's obviously something you have a lot of while you're studying. Now, sugar-free gum helps prevent tooth decay, and there really are no disadvantages other than the stickiness. If someone invented like stick-free gum or a gum-proof desk, then we'd be set. And as an appetite suppressant, it helps you keep going in the last 30 minutes before your lunch period, because the constant motion of chewing convinces your body that you're eating something, and it suppresses your appetite and allows you to focus on the task at hand. But in this case, studies by universities were not enough for me. I thought I could do the study better. So what I did is I went local with the idea. I went to a class in a school in Toronto, and I asked the science teacher to just allow gum in the classroom. Now, before this happened, they had already had their first unit test. The class average on that unit test was 73%. Over the next 2 units, the class average went up 7%. And you can see that from these graphs here. And this was an IB classroom, and it works for everyone. So really, there is a benefit to gum in a classroom. And now on to the #1 item, texting. Now, cell phones are kind of like the cancer of a classroom. No teacher wants to see cell phones out, and odds are many of you have been caught with cell phones in your hand, and usually the teacher just takes it away or something like that. Well, teachers have a reason. With all the LOLs and BRBs, they ruin your ability to spell, and they make you they decrease your standards of literacy. However, studies again have disproved this idea. They show that you can actually use texting to improve your standard of literacy. But how is that possible? If you're wondering, it's because we're not texting instead of writing Shakespearean poetry. We're texting instead of not writing at all. And writing is more than just spelling. It's about communication, forming thoughts into words. And that's exactly what texting is. Thanks to texting, we have an entire generation of students who are getting massive practice at forming thoughts into words. And concisely too, because of the 160-character word limit. Now, what does this mean? This means that you can use texting in the classroom. Compared to other disturbing methods of communication in a classroom, texting is relatively non-disruptive, and it lets you communicate without making too much noise. But why is this all important? Why does it matter? Well, the educational system is always changing. The curriculum is rewritten once every 4 years, and the school rules are being revised yearly. So hopefully some of what I've presented today will be used in classrooms in the future. And I invite all of you to just take your ideas, try this out at home, at school, in your classrooms, at your workplace, anywhere you can, because you never know what will happen. Maybe your work productivity will go up 7%. You never know what's going to happen, and it's definitely worth finding out. Thank you.